Welcome back to another episode of College Football UK. As ever, I am your host, Fletch, and joined to me today, I have a near full cast. We're missing one guy. We have Nick, we have Garrett, and we have Sam. Gentlemen, how are we this week?
Yeah, been fine for me on the college front with Texas not having a game, so I'm not really paid as much attention as I normally would this week. Well, still kept an eye on some of the teams, which I'm sure we'll come on to.
Yes.
Crazy week.
Yeah.
I'm still not recovered from the weekend and the major results, but the fact that we can't get any time to recover right now because we're deep in that 55 days of non-stop football is just like, well, every time you turn the TV on, there's another game on.
Exactly. But it wasn't even not just the college football weekend that was brilliant. The NFL games this weekend were just fantastic as well. I feel like it was just a really good weekend of football as a whole.
Unless you were a Jets fan.
Well, yeah, there's that. While we get going, though, I do want to remind everybody something I need to get better at plugging. Please remember to follow the AAW Network on all the socials. Check the links in the description for that. We are trying to build a Discord server as well. We're getting that one really going now. It's starting to heat up a little bit. There will be some exclusive benefits, etc., that will belong to Discord members. Again, links in the description, etc. Really, really enjoy having you on. Talk NFL, talk college football, we've got channels for just about everything at the moment. If there's anything I'm missing...
You've got 115 channels in there, have you, Fletch?
It feels like it, Gary. It feels like it. It's more like 114 now. Maybe even a few less. After Monday, managed to clip a few. With that being said, let's just get straight into college football. Does anybody have any news for us this week? Any big news pieces?
I thought I'd at least do my bit and bring some news to the table. The NCAA have voted to shorten the transfer portal for both college football and college basketball to 30 days in total. That'll be 20 in the winter and 10 in the spring. After what, shall we say, a small win against Alabama, Vanderbilt are auctioning off memorabilia. Two 4-inch goalposts are going for $1,205 each. 2 8-inch goalposts are going for over $4,000 each. A helmet that was used by a player in the game is currently auctioned. The price for buying it is $7,290. And should you want 2 game balls, that will cost you $2,750.
Gee.
They've got to find a way of paying that £100,000 bill somehow, haven't they?
And I was literally about to say, they, alongside Arkansas, were fined $100,000. Arkansas were fined $250 for field stormings, fans running onto the pitch. The money has to be paid to Alabama and Tennessee. I don't get why it has to go to the opposition, but, hey, there you go. So, and the only other bit of news I've got is that Travis Hunter has said $40 million in NIL money would keep him in college football for another year. So, that's it.
Okay.
Do you reckon that's setting the bar? Is that the bar set now for future years? Because I think we're all of the opinion he's probably the best player coming out of the draft, right? He may not go number 1, but he's probably the best player in the draft. So is that now the bar for upcoming future sort of first round picks and first round draftees? It has to be minimum 40 million NIL for me to stick 1 extra year.
Possibly, I don't know. I mean, that's supposedly his number.
I think that as a whole will be exclusive to Travis Hunter. I think you'll see a few more of these, but that kind of number will be exclusive to Travis Hunter for quite a while.
Yeah.
But
So,
with that being said,
I was going to say, just as a bit of news, I know there was mention as to why they have to pay it to the other team. Apparently, for conference contests, fines are paid to the opposing institution. So because they're both within the same conference, that's why the payment was made. It's part of a rule that's been in for a while, I think, by the looks of it. And it just says here, for the safety of participants and spectators alike, at no time before, during, or after the contest may spectators enter the competition area. The policy was originally adopted by vote of conference members in 2004, and financial penalties were increased by action taken by the membership in 2015 and again in 2023. So it's basically, probably because it's happened a fair few times, they've then gone, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to be paying your rivals money. So I think that's why it's a way to, I suppose, to stop teams from, people from jumping on. But to be honest,
Crashing it. But
I don't think it's going to stop them, because it's that big of, like, especially when you're playing rivals, it's that big of a thing that colleges probably can afford to pay those fines to each other anyway.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's like in an agreement. It's like, we've got to play you twice this year. Okay, well, we'll storm you this year, and then, you know, on the return game, you storm us, and, you know, we'll withhold payment until next season. You come and storm our field. Oh, look, you pay us the same amount.
But it's a step up system. So like Vanderbilt got charged $100,000 because it was their first offence. Arkansas got charged $250,000 because it was their second offence. If they were to have a third offence, they'd be charged $500,000, $500,000.
Yeah. What happens if they did it a fourth time?
I was going to say, does it go to $1 million then after?
I don't know.
Just double up.
I don't know.
And
how many games a season do they get?
Scale of it is.
What was up? So
I wonder what the time scale of it all is. Like, what is there sort of like a? You can only do
5 yellow cards, and you get wiped. You know,
yeah.
You get
Is
5
it like
yellows,
in a season, or is it more like over a few seasons?
That would be interesting to find
out. Have Arkansas done it again before this season?
No, they did it last season, I think I read.
So it goes over multiple seasons then?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to find out which team is sitting there on that brink of, we can't do it. Please, don't ever run on the pitch. We're this close to $1 million fine if you do it. That would be interesting.
And any of these teams where you can see the accountants sat in the stands sweating at the end of a big, like, it's a really close game. It's a really close game, and the accountant is just there, is sweating. They're the team. But I think sometimes this with football, like in our football, you see fines go to clubs for things that fans have done. You remember half the time, though, the fans don't care. They're not the ones technically paying the fine. Why do I care if my club's going to pay $200,000 when I get to storm? I'm not paying it. I get to storm the field. I get to do something we'll talk about. Something we'll talk about in a minute is kind of all the kind of things surrounding it. I get to do all these things. I do it for free. You know, it's a free excursion for me, and it's some great content that I can put out there and say I was there and part of it. So, does that disconnect there? Maybe the whole, not my money that's paying for it.
Yeah, but where do you think that £100,000 will have to come from? It's from students' education. It's from there's potentially a potential scholarship there that someone's lost, and that's how that they'll play it. Is that they'll say to fans, if you keep doing it, we're not going to be able to bring in players that you want us to bring in because we can't afford their scholarships.
Because you keep blowing the scholarship money. Yeah.
But I will introduce you to. Sorry, go on, Gary.
I was just thinking, you know, what Nick just mentioned, though. It's like, okay, great. So don't storm the field. Don't do it. La, 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 la. They storm the field and they take goalposts, they take game balls, they take helmets, and then they sell them on eBay. And then the donors just all get together and go, hey, whatever profit you just made there, pay the fine.
But I mean, like I say though, I got introduced to something over the last couple of weeks that my wife discovered through TikTok. It's something called girl maths, right? And I feel like it applies here, right? It applies here.
Other
Your
forms
tickets,
of maths are available.
Other forms of maths are definitely available, and it's a flawed version of mathematics. Yes, your tickets might go up slightly. Yes, the rest of the school's budget might take a slight hit. But you are not being asked to front money for the thing that you did. So technically, you did it for free. They put the cost on you in different places, so it doesn't come out as if that's the cost. Girl maths applies here. The girl maths is the weird logic you can do to make it sound like you've not bought something or you've got something for free.
Yep.
That sounds like a sale. That sounds like a trip to the sales sort of maths.
Yeah, it's 50% off, so I bought 3 of them. Wait, so you didn't say right? That kind of math, isn't it? Yeah.
So when you actually think of it, yes, I paid full price, but I got 3, so I got 2 for free.
Yeah.
That's
it. Yeah. I think we've all suffered from that.
And I apologise to any females who listen to this, by the way. I did not call it girl maths. It is not my phrase. Just putting that one out there. That's not my choice of words, but it's just the phrase I now know it by. With that in mind, let's get on to the actual football rather than
before we get in real trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not having a good couple of weeks here with things I'm encouraging people on the other side with their headphones on. So let's get into the actual football, lads. It was a chaotic weekend. We've mentioned one game, but I think we need to get onto that one towards the end. 6 teams in the top 25 lost to unranked opponents, I believe. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. No. 5 lost to unranked opponents, 1 lost to a ranked opponent, but with an extremely big margin between them.
Sure.
Alabama Vander gets the prime low. This is the prime time slot for the episode, so we'll work up to it's the headline. Other games we had: number 4 ranked Tennessee lost to Arkansas. Number 10 ranked Michigan lost to Washington. Number 11 ranked USC lost to Minnesota. Number 22 ranked Louisville lost to SMU. And UNLV, who ranked 24, lost to Syracuse. Some special mentions this week, though, go out to Missouri, ranked number 9, who lost to Texas A&M, who were ranked 25.
Not just lost, though. Not just lost.
Yeah, they got obliterated.
They got
And a game that we've had made sure we're putting this in because it's been mentioned in the group chat as well is Miami scraping past Cal. Scraping. Now,
scraping is an interesting choice of words. Yeah.
It is. Is there any of these games you'd like to pick up first that isn't Alabama Vanderbilt?
No, but I mean, I'd be interested to talk about the end of the Miami game because it's another game where Miami have been on the receiving end of fortuitous officiating, shall we say? It's the second game like that. How? And if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. There's a tackle towards the end of that game, which was reviewed for targeting. And if you understand the targeting law and rule, and I put my hands up, I might not understand it fully, but that's targeting. Anyone that looks at that and says that's not is either on the payroll of Miami or is looking at something else, because unless they've changed the targeting rule, that was a targeting penalty, and therefore Miami should not have got that point, and it would have changed the outcome, and another team ranked would have lost. So they are very lucky to be in that position where they are. But it was just bizarre how that was not called. I'm just confused. I don't know if you guys have seen it or had a chance to review the highlight of it. It's got low light, maybe. And so that's not BCC bitterness, honest.
No, I've seen it. I saw it on Saturday, but I've just rewatched it then while you were going through it. And I share the same sentiment as it's sometimes, you get those, I don't know what it is, but when I see it, I know. Yeah, just no matter what I see, that's targeting. That's targeting on just about every level. Sam, Nick, have you seen it?
Yeah, well, I'm just watching it now. I mean, he's led with the head. Like this, it's not like he's wrapping his arms. He's got both of his arms sort of tucked underneath his body.
He's torpedoed. He's literally torpedoed.
And he's going head first. That's targeting. We talked about one that was that they were discussing with. They missed in the one of the Texas games where there was a clear targeting, and it was a very similar call. That you can, it's just obvious. The moment you start leading with your helmet, it's targeting. I don't know how you could miss it.
And it was, the worst thing is it was reviewed as well.
I could understand if he'd maybe tried to wrap and the guy started to go down and he's gone with his helmet and he's hitting with his helmet thinking he was going to catch him like chest height.
Slightly higher up. And we've seen it in rugby. Right? You've seen that a lot of that in rugby. You player ducks in and the arm kind of catches them.
Yeah, it goes the shoulder leads into the helmet, like with the head in rugby. But it's the exact same thing. If you show the at least the attempt to use your arms before your helmet, then fair enough. Or use your shoulder before the helmet, fair enough. But the fact he's got him leading with the helmet with no intention other than to connect with his helmet, it's just an absolute. I can't believe that's been missed, to be honest.
Yeah, it is, and it was missed on the field. B, it was reviewed and was still not called as targeting. The review said no, it's not targeting because the referees have not called it. It's almost like VAR over here, where they've kind of gone, well, it's not a clear and obvious error, and yet we're three of us have looked at it and gone, that's targeting. How's that not been called? Bizarre.
But again, is it not maybe? It's one of those where.
I just say there might be something
it's
about
down, it. It's like red cards in football in certain instances. Mm-hmm. It's so subjective to the individual as to what they deem as targeting.
I think for me, it's the way he he leaves the ground and almost like it's not just leading with your head; it's literally a flying headbutt, effectively.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get the official wording up here from the NCAA. Now, I've seen this earlier. There's been a couple of ones that got argued earlier this year, and I've seen a few articles that put out and give the official wording. I'm just trying to get the official wording of it. But one of there's a couple of things that are of extreme note in the targeting rule, and that's leading with the crown of the helmet and the player being defenseless. The exact point of contact was not just the crown of the defensive player's helmet, but it was directly into the helmet of the offensive player. Helmet-to-helmet contact all over the football is not allowed.
Also from the blind side. It's
a blindside hit. It's that where he's hit him, it's cracked him straight in the temple, which is everyone knows that if you're gonna, when you're always told the temple is the weakest part of your skull. Eventually, he's attacked him at the weakest part, which makes it even more dangerous.
So, targeted and making forcible contact to head or neck area of a defenseless player. Article 4. No player shall target and make forcible contact to the head or neck area of a defenseless opponent with the helmet, forearm, hand, fist, elbow, or shoulder. This foul requires that there be at least one indicator of targeting when in question. It is a foul. Note 1. Targeting means that a player takes aim at an opponent for purposes of attacking with forcible contact that goes beyond making a legal tackle. or a legal block, or playing the ball. Some indications of targeting, emphasis emphasis in English, if whatever, you know what I mean.
Emphasizes?
They include the things that the NCAA emphasise include, but are not limited to, launch a player leaving his feet to attack an opponent by an upward and forward thrust of the body to make forcible contact in the head or neck area. We've mentioned that he's left his feet.
That's exactly what he did. He leapt into the defensive lane, led with his head, and as we just said, crashed and took the crown of his helmet into the side of the quarterback, who was already potentially defenseless because he was kind of going down at the time, so unable.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we've got a crouch followed by an upward and forward thrust to attack with forcible contact at the head or neck area, even though one or both feet are still on the ground. So the crouch.
He had one foot on the ground and he was going up and he was going in like that, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, so I don't think that one officially comes under that banner, but there have been a couple others previously in games that have come under that banner, the crouch and making an upward thrust. Leading with the helmet, shoulder, forearm, fist, hand or elbow to attack with forcible contact at the head or neck area. Now the whole thing's textbook that, right? Like textbook what that was. And finally, lowering the head before initiating forcible contact with the crown of the helmet.
And it's almost 4 for 4. It's almost got all of those.
Almost
ticked like a full house, but yet somehow doesn't get flagged.
And it is a targeting foul if one of those things are.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that was the problem with the refereeing and officiating. They were like, well, which one do we target? Which one do we flag him for? Because he's done all of them. And maybe it just confused everybody because he's done all 4, and therefore they can't flag him.
I don't think there's any excuse that you can give for it. It was just a very bad call made by 2 officials that should have got it right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say I agree. If you're an official, at the end of the day, minimum 1 means targeting. If it's hit 4, you can't do almost like, well, that's targeting. That's also targeting that off. Like, there's no
offsetting penalties, right?
The second you are in that realm of targeting, you're in targeting. There is a bit of grey area, but he ran way past it.
I think the also as well is the fact that we've probably this season seen some targeting calls made that weren't as clear cut as that one. And that's what makes that so baffling, is the fact that is so clear, and we have seen ones which are arguably debatable.
You've got a few debatable ones have not been pinged or have been, and then you get this one that everyone, even neutrals, will look at that.
You might want to check the connection settings in the Google Home app.
We might have another special guest. We've had a dog and Google Assistant.
And now we've got Google Nest Assistant. I must have said the wrong word or the right word there.
Now, Nick, your quietness worries me on this one. Either you're going to come in and tell us that real football should be played and they're just wimps, or we're going to get... What are your thoughts on it, if you've seen it?
I have seen it. The fact that he almost comes in with a flying headbutt. I think it's, there is a level of standard, let's say, that you expect all officials to meet. I get that every official is different and every official is his own person and will see things slightly differently. But ultimately, you are all following the same rule book. And in something that blatant, there isn't really an excuse for not calling it.
I think if it wasn't, the on-field one, on-field officials, you can kind of understand it.
Might have been too quick, might have been the wrong angle. Yeah.
The reviewing part is the more concerning part, is that they've reviewed it and upheld it. Yeah. That's more concerning to me.
To me, that's the problem.
If I think about the thing that jumps to my mind
Is that that's been reviewed?
we have
upheld by
a thing
independent.
over here in the especially in the Premier League, where VAR officials don't want to overrule the referee because the referee's their mate from oh, he's my mate. I don't want to say he's crap. I don't want to say he's done a bad job. So they kind of don't really want to go against the referee. So is it like that? Is it there's the the replay guy's like, well, he's
He's giving me a lift home
go on,
today.
mate.
I got it.
But ultimately, it's like Sam says, between the on-field officials and the guys in the replay review room, they should not be getting that wrong. There is no excuse for getting that wrong between all
Brock
of them.
Osweiler said it best. He was the colour commentator. He was citing it, and he said, I do not know by the definition of the rule book how that is not targeting. And that was said on the broadcast. And it's like, so second time that Miami have got away with it. They're doing well in the ACC, but it's they're lucky to be where they are.
Yeah. And I think, again, I don't really care what position you stand on targeting in the wider world, not you guys. I care what you think, obviously. But the end of the day, the rule exists, and that's the rule. And there is a level of black and whiteness to this, and it meets that exact criteria. There is a clear rule. The rule has been broken, but not enforced. That is a problem. And again, just to kind of wrap this up a little bit. Not only is it unacceptable that the rule's not been enforced, the fact that it has gone to a replay, the fact that it has gone to another source where they can watch it again and again and again and have those rules in front of them is doubly unacceptable, and something needs to be looked into, in my opinion, on that one.
That's the thing. The
you
level
remember-
of officiating.
Do you remember when there was the official in the NFL, when all the officials were on strike? And do you remember when all the college officials were doing the NFL? And the NFL players were complaining that the college officials weren't up to the standard and weren't good enough. That's kind of like being shown here. You can't think that at a higher level that doesn't get missed.
Massive. That should not get missed as a professional, or at the NFL level. That would be all over. Everyone would be all over that one. But yeah. So that was my talking point from one of the other games.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I'm going to say this last thing on this. I absolutely agree, but it's doubly there because of the type of tackles they are and the type of injuries they will cause. That isn't a rolling on the ankle that will leave you out for 4 weeks. That is a head collision. Those are, helmets are helmets, and we're doing everything that science is doing everything that they can to try and make them as safe as possible. It negates a lot of what the purpose of the helmet and the safety that they bring in. Those are head injuries, and they are the absolute last thing that anyone wants going into at the age of 21, leaving college with a severe head injury.
Yeah.
It's the last thing anybody wants on them. Like, from the player down to the people who are in charge of that game, that's the last thing you want on your conscience. Anyway, so getting on to some of the other games now. One game that I think we can... I'm going to bring it up ever so slightly was the Louisville SMU game. I did have a good chunk of this on myself because as it pertains to something we're going to talk about later on in this episode when we cover our preseason conference predictions. This was me and Egg for the ACC. Louisville lost 34-27 in a game that was just... I think SMU started to take away pretty early in this one. And Louisville were all but trying to keep themselves in it for the most part. Did any of you get much of this game in? Or at least see much about it afterwards?
I didn't, but basically what you read about how Louisville played, is effectively pretty much how they played the week before against Notre Dame. And had it not been for Notre Dame, pissing down their leg and trying to throw it away, they'd have been miles out in front. Louisville, they just seem to be, sixes and sevens. It's like they don't have a clue. Like plan A doesn't work. Oh well, we're fucked.
Yeah, we don't have any other plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can, based on what I'd seen the week before, you can, when you read about what happened in that game, you can see it was just almost a carbon copy.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the game.
To be fair, the stats for the game are pretty even when you look at it. So SMU 481 yards to Louisville's 461. Plays 63 to 69. Your first downs 27-21. I mean, the fact that Louisville had to rely on some fourth downs, got 2 of them through the door out of 3. Red zones, SMU were 4-4. Louisville were 2-4. So again, there's probably where you potentially lost points.
The interception was a big one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, SMU had a fumble, but obviously the turnover came from Louisville. So, I mean, if you were just looking at the stats alone, bar the red zone elements, there's not too much to separate them. But yeah, I mean, SMU just kept themselves in front, didn't they? They were always at least one score ahead of them.
Yes, I apologise. I am trying to get the stats up myself, by the way.
One of the things with college football is that way, though, isn't it? If you can break them and get a 2-score jump, then it's almost like, as long as you keep scoring, they'll never catch up type thing. So that seems to be how it happened. And as you say, Louisville just have that plan A of going one way. If it doesn't work for them.
I mean, to be fair to Louisville, they kept themselves in touch for good parts of the game. It was 7-0, 7-0, 7-7, 14-7, 14-10. Then it was a bit spread out where you had 21-10, 21-13, then 24-13, but then 24-20, 27-20, 27-27. And the fourth quarter, there was one touchdown in that fourth quarter, which was halfway through, and that was how it ended. It wasn't like as if it was a last-minute touchdown in the last few minutes of the game. I mean, you've got plenty of time there to get back into that.
Absolutely. And this is the thing with Louisville and I do believe, you can quote me if I'm wrong, if we can remember that far back. When we were talking about our preseason predictions for the ACC conference, this is one of the things that was being brought up was about Louisville. In whether they could challenge for a conference title or not.
You get that feeling they're very one-dimensional. Like I said, they've got variations of one plan, and that's it. And it's just they will knock on the door, until it doesn't work, and then and
they'll soon get found. The thing is, they'll get found out. Pretty.
I think the problem is as well is their next 2 games are against Virginia and Miami.
Yeah.
So you've got an ACC game coming up against a team who are probably going to be up there. They've got to win that game against Virginia.
Yeah,
I think. And then obviously, they've got to go. To be fair, then they've got Miami coming to them, but still, I mean, that's going to be no easy game.
That's not going to be easy.
Especially the way that Miami are getting all the balls their way.
Yeah.
The balls their way and the calls their way. But no, absolutely. And you've got to think as well. There are a few teams there and thereabouts in the ACC at the moment and pushing them. If they really want to challenge for this conference, they can't even lose to Miami. They can't do it because 2 losses will not have you challenging for an ACC conference title. You're out with it, I think.
Yeah.
Well, all 3 of their next games are ACC games. So Virginia, Miami, and then Boston College. So 3 wins and they're up there.
Yeah.
Well, 1 loss and it's done.
1 loss and done.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's one of the really hard things. We kind of get there. We kind of get it on a couple of, in most of the sports, but it really is a case of you're done. If one of these games does not go your way, you are realistically done. And the only thing you're looking forward to is a bowl at the end of the season. Is just kind of sadly how it goes in college football. With that being said, again, I want to take a quick look here at, I was going to hurt my heart a little bit, but we have to do it.
Get in there.
Michigan losing to Washington in a replay of the college football national championship, in which, Michigan obviously won that game when they won the national championship only a few months ago. However, they lost this time. But in Washington, 27-17, I obviously watched this game and I feel cheated out of 2 hours of sleep, even though I probably wouldn't have slept those 2 hours anyway. Absolutely shocking. I've got some thoughts on the rest of Michigan's season going forward, but I want to talk about the game first. What do you do when you've not got a quarterback? What was the plan when you've not got a quarterback?
Run the ball. Run the ball in Wildcat. That's all you've
Wildcat
got.
after Wildcat.
You've got
You've got 2 very good running backs there that'll do all the job that you need them to do.
Absolutely. And I would generally agree, but when you play 60 snaps on offense, if they know that 59 of those snaps are going to be a throw and then a run, you stifle the run pretty quickly. The one play that's going to be a pass, let's face it, is either going to be a DJ Aguilera special. It's either going to be a lateral behind the line of scrimmage, or sorry, I had to. You're catching strays. We're talking about Michigan being bad.
Wow.
You play a lateral. If it's anything further than 2 yards down the field, it's an incompletion and probably either over or underthrown. Be lucky if it's not an interception.
I have a question. So the last 2 games for both against USC and Minnesota, Alex Orji has been the starter, hasn't he?
Correct.
So why this week do you decide to go with Tuttle?
Because Alex Orji can't throw the ball. He can't. He does not have an arm. This is the problem that we've had. The first few games when we had Davis Warren in. Davis Warren could make throws. He could make throws. No Michigan fan is willing to admit it, but he could make throws. The only problem is on 10 of his 11, he'd complete 10 of 11 passes. And they'd be great passes. They'd be or decent passes. On play number 11, he'd do the wildest bit of dumbfuckery, shithousery, whatever we want to call it. It's an interception. And it was just that's who Davis Warren was. So you take him out because his interceptions were costing you the opportunity to win games. You put Alex Orji in. Alex Orji gives you the 2 dimensions. He's got the legs. He's a quarterback. The problem is he doesn't give you 2 dimensions. He's a quarterback without an arm. I watched some of the passes he made against not USC the week before against Minnesota. Just awful. Just absolutely awful. There were passes that I probably could have, maybe not, but I feel like I could have made. It takes away your ability to win games. Again, and we struggle. you put in the guy who hopefully then is the next best thing because your other two haven't worked and that didn't work either. So the team doesn't have a quarterback and they're just trying to throw feces at a wall and see what sticks.
But when you say that he doesn't have an, I mean, 'cause obviously I'm just looking at the stats from the last 3 games. So, like against USC, he was 7 for 12 for 32 yards. So what's he's obviously not throwing it far, but he is making a plus 50% passing average. So, and then the week after, when you look at him against Minnesota, he's 10 for 18, for 86 yards, and again, over 50% completions. So I'm just trying to, I get that maybe he doesn't have a big arm and he can't throw it a long way, but surely he has the ability to just, do the short throws and hope for some yards after catch.
I urge
the plan.
I urge anyone who doesn't know to watch those passes. All 18 or all 12. The completions are dump, and on a couple of occasions, throw to Colston Loveland in double coverage and hope that he can bring it in. And that's a tight end running a cross route. You throw in 5 yards. There's a couple of them you watch, and I think it is actually the USC one. He rolls out right. You've got Colston Loveland on the right. He gets a yard on a DB, and just it's nowhere near him. Nowhere near. That completely negated any ability for Michigan to get a good passing game going. And it was like a constant dump-offs and laterals behind the line, which after a couple of tries, they're blowing receivers up at the line of scrimmage, and then what's the point now? There's no one there to throw to, and things like that. So, Michigan, like I said, they're in a bad situation with no real quarterback until in 2 years' time Brady Hart comes to play. Maybe there's a true freshman on the roster at the moment who, it's one of them. A lot of Michigan fans surely can't be worse.
So how did Tuttle perform? Because obviously I haven't watched this game. I'm just sort of looking at his stats are sort of very similar to what Orji had, but he has more yards.
Yeah, well, again, not great, but had some more of the ability to go past the line of scrimmage on a number of occasions with the ball in the air, and that's the only real difference. I will say, though, some of the play calling has been terrible as well.
I was wondering about that.
Atrocious.
Are you putting it all on the QB, or is it some of the play calling?
Absolutely. And if you miss a pass that's very much makeable, and you would expect, even at the college football level, a QB should be making those passes. If you are at, dare I say, a school like Michigan, a Big Ten school, a top 25 school, you should expect certain things of a quarterback. All of these quarterbacks lack in that department. But the play calling also has been terrible. I think, with all due respect to Sherrone Moore, his handling of the QB situation has been bad. And also, I will say this, I think Jim Harbaugh and his recruiting, everything for last year, needs to be called into question, and his struggle genuinely recruiting has to be called into question because he's set Michigan up for a bad couple of years. It is what it is.
Yeah,
I don't want to dwell too much on it. Pardon?
He won you a national championship. I mean, the whole idea.
There's parallels, Sam. You got perfect parallel here with the Rams when you won the Super Bowl. You were all in for the Super Bowl. You massive contracts and everything else. You won the Super Bowl. The year after, injuries decimated your team. But because the Rams went all in, it was inevitable there was going to be a fall off. So it was inevitable for Michigan this was going to happen.
Yeah,
but you won a national championship. You then also got absolutely decimated.
We had the coach and the the general manager that are decent, not
that stuck around and didn't.
If Sean McVay had left, I think we probably would have headed the same way. But yeah, there are parallels to it. If you're going to go in and try and get that championship, if you're going to go all in, you are inevitably probably going to have a few down years. But yeah, I think it's, by the sounds of it, I mean, to be fair, given the state in which your quarterback position is in, you're still ranked 24th.
And is that because it's Michigan? Is that because it's Michigan?
And you're still 4-2.
Let's get into that when we talk about the top 25, because I do want to talk about the top 25. And I'm very, very wary of the fact that we've just spent a good chunk of minutes where I've kind of been
I like the way you said that
the
Alabama Vandy was going to be the thing we talk about the most, and we haven't even got anywhere near it yet.
Yeah, and I genuinely, I don't want to spend all this time talking specifically about Michigan. I've been asked a couple of questions. I've tried to answer them. I don't want to spend this time talking about this. So let's move on to, did any of you check out USC Minnesota?
No.
I did not.
No,
USC
I'm going to say
are
I didn't get much of this either.
No. That's the downside sometimes being a UK fan and having when college football's on, because it's pick and choose and which ones you can get to see and where can you find them, and it's difficult to go and see these ones. You just say,
I mean,
you're going to look for Michigan.
I only
you're
had
look
time
for
to watch 2 on Saturday, so I watched the Missouri-Texas game and Clemson-Florida State. They were, they were the only 2 I had.
Those were the 2 games
so.
that would look like you would be good watches, etc. But there are so many games, and it's so difficult for UK fans to find them all, that we are reliant on YouTube highlights on the Sunday or the Monday, etc. It is difficult trying to keep a track of them because we all have our own teams, as it's pretty obvious. But to try and keep track of all these other ones, and it's why as a group of individuals and UK fans, we desperately need either that ESPN Plus player back, or something that gives us that opportunity that we used to have to be able to go, this game that I'm watching of my team, for example, Nick, I was watching a Clemson Florida State game and turned it off after 2.5, because it was just hideous. But then it was like, where do I go now? It would be amazing to just flick over and go, oh, look, there's a good game happening over there. I'll go and watch that one. But it's just not available to us.
I have a solution, but I'm not going to discuss on here. So what I'm going to say is any US...
through our sponsor, VPN, you can utilize the...
I will ask any US-based followers of this podcast, one, love you so much. You are already doing so much for us. But if you would like to help us out just a little bit, I have a proposition for you. Please send a message to the AAW_network on Twitter, AAW Network on all the others, or at Fletch on any of them. I have a proposition where we could all benefit. And some exchange of currency may go in your direction. Anyway, enough of that. It's a very, very fair point, though, that you make. We are extremely limited on which games we can legally watch in the UK. And it's a fair point. There's only so many games I can have on a screen at one point without my brain melting.
Yeah.
As well. Which would also help, by the way, if anybody is in the UK and would like to be involved, if you watch a bit of college football, you'd like to get involved, and maybe you look at some of the games that we might miss each week. We'd love to have you on board to help us kind of pull through some of this. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate Nick, Gary, and
where
Sam.
Can they find us again, Fletch? Where can they find us again?
Links in the description. Just go to the links in the description of the episode, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Thingy. You can find us. I'm not repeating it all again. It'd be greatly appreciated. No, because seriously, the work that we all put in each week just to get the information that we do is incredible. it's a lot. If you imagine, there's 134 FBS teams. Granted, some will be on bye weeks, but on weeks where there's no, that's up to 67 games every week just in the FBS.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of football. Yeah. And we get access to how many each week?
Legally, 3.
3. We get actual access to 3 each week. And half of those are Notre Dame, and no one cares about them. No one's watching.
Well, at least you're getting strays, because I managed to catch some strays from absolutely nowhere earlier on. So at least he's going direct at you. I think one of the good games. Go on, sir.
Oh, sorry. I know this isn't related to college football, but George Baldock, the former Sheffield United player, has passed away at the age of 31.
Ooh.
Oh,
sorry. Just had to share that. It just came up on my news feed. He was playing in Panathinaikos.
Oh, still playing. That's harsh. So the Missouri-Texas A&M game, Mick, you said you caught that one.
Yeah.
That was the one game I actually got to watch.
I mean, that was some sort of. It was like men versus boys, because literally Texas came out, turned the burners up, and they were absolutely on it. Every pass went to where it should have done. Every run found a gap, and Missouri just did not have an answer. They could not stop the run. They could not stop the pass. They couldn't hold on to the ball. Yeah, they couldn't hold the ball long enough to actually make some yardage themselves. It was just like literally Texas A&M were going up the field at will, and Missouri was just 4 and out, 4 and out, 4 and out, 4 and out. Oh, we made a yard. 4 and out, 4 and out. It was like watching men versus boys. It was
that kick at the end, the end of the first half. That was unbelievable. It literally just trickled along the 1 yard line.
He could not do that again if you gave him 1,000 tries. The way that bobbled at the right point and it fell the right way for it to do that, he could do that 1,000 times and he'd never do that again.
No, that was an unbelievable kick.
Yeah. So.
Do you think?
I mean, even if you just want to look at like the stats from that game, like Texas A&M had over double the yards that Missouri had. Like their average per play was double. Granted, Missouri had 61 plays and scored 10 points.
Wow, 61. That's bad. And do you think it's interesting because Missouri have been knocking around the top 10, and I know Fletch wants to talk about the top 25 and stuff in the polls. They've been in and around and have been highly rated. Is this a wake-up call? Is this just a bad day at the office? Or is this maybe teams have worked Missouri out?
Personally, I think this was just one of those games that everything fell Texas A&M's way. And I'm not saying that necessarily that's solely down to that, but everything fell their way. Everything was like Nick was saying, every single run, there was just gaps everywhere. Every throw was just into someone's hands and was going for extra yardage. It was just everything just amalgamated into this one really sort of perfect game.
And it was like every time Missouri actually put, I'm not saying they weren't making the effort, but every time they put a huge hit in and they put some effort in and they made a really big play to get a stoppage, it was like flag, and they then got a penalty, and it was because I think it was either end of the first quarter or beginning of the second, I can't remember, and the defensive end came round the back and he absolutely cleaned the tight end out that had been and I thought it was a fantastic tackle. because it was like perfectly timed in that, you know, he wasn't early, he wasn't, you know, he wasn't over the top, it wasn't targeting or anything like that. It was and it was like, yeah, that's a foul. It's like, really? You know, when you can't even get the luck that way, it's just like you're on a hide into nothing. Really.
Yeah.
It was just
things like that start
like
to
I said,
go against you.
Perfect storm of just Texas A&M being on it, and they just didn't have an answer.
Texas A&M's defense as well. We got to give them credit. They stood up massively. I mean, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sacks in that game, all totaling for a loss, plus a further tackle for loss in that. A further 3 tackles for loss. I mean, I'm not sure what his first name is, but they kept highlighting him. Scorton, the D lineman, number 11 for Texas A&M. I mean, he had 2 tackles, 2 solo tackles, and 2 tackles for loss. And he barely got really involved in the game, but he was so disruptive in terms of, you know, when we say about those like invisible stats, which similar to what always happened with Aaron Donald, where he doesn't necessarily get the tackles or the sacks, but he just disrupts games, and that's
he's
what
the
he
one
was
with
doing.
the pressure. He's the one with the pressure that causes the sack. But he doesn't get the credit. Yeah, it was that. Yeah, but you know, go on.
We'll say, can we also talk? Because I watched the first half of this, a good chunk of the first half, and I'm going to come in and do it. There were a number of odd calls, shall we say. There was a specific DPI on Eli Drinkwitz that never got called. And again, there are some DPI is one of those. It's a lot of times a judgment call until sometimes it's not. That was not a judgment call. That was flagrant. There were some early on calls, particularly that I think went just in very odd fashion, did not go in the way of Mizzou in this one.
While you were stepped away, then I did say that on the few times that Missouri actually got something going, they were always sort of just hit with a flag that just didn't seem fair. It was just like, you know, they just seemed to be unlucky in everything that they did. You know, I guess all teams have a day like that at some point, and it's just, you know, they just ran into a buzzsaw.
I think as well, the one thing that Texas did so well was keeping Luther Burden quiet.
Yeah,
because we've seen him single-handedly ruin teams this season, and he I mean, yes, he still got 82 yards, but his longest was only 27, and it was 7 of 8, so he didn't exactly. It wasn't terrible stats, but no touchdowns. The only touchdown that they got came from, I think, was in the third quarter, which was from a 59-yard throw. So it's like it was just one of those games where nothing was ever going to go right for him.
Yeah,
and you found out early on, didn't they? Yeah.
Absolutely.
What about UNLV then? We talked about them a couple of weeks ago with the NIL and the QB redshirting himself. They finally break into the AP poll, and the first time in program history they're ranked, and they run into Syracuse.
That was a fantastic game. And it even went to overtime. Was it 1 round or 2 rounds of overtime that one went to?
1 round of overtime.
One round of overtime.
UNLV kicked a field goal, and then Syracuse went down the other end and ran in a TD for the win. A walk-off TD, or a hobbling off TD by the running back, who was beaten up from the first quarter, but somehow managed to stick in.
Yeah, that was just a brilliant game overall. See if I can get some of that up now. Because I did watch it, but it was very, very late, and I was focusing on a couple of other things as well at the time. but I really, really wanted to get this one in. No, this tablet just does not want to play ball today. I do apologise, by the way. I on the tablet at the moment for a lot of the stats and statistics, etc. Detroit Tigers playoff baseball is on, and that's more important than everyone. I apologise.
Wow.
So playoff baseball. So first,
true. I mean, I wouldn't know. Giants.
It is only baseball, though.
It's
listen, it's the. No, I'm not getting into MLB talk right now. I'm just mentioning to everybody why.
It was so close. It was so close. You almost had him. Nick. You almost had him.
Yeah, very, very close.
Had him.
However,
I'm going to put my Giants hat on in a second. We'll have some real fun.
There we go. But yeah, it very high scoring, 41-44 in favour of Syracuse. I was watching the win probability during this game, and it just seemed, it was one of those that, okay, if you're listening on audio, this isn't going to help you. It was going up and down and up and down. In 1 minute, UNLV were favourite, had a high win probability. Next minute, it was Syracuse. Next minute, it was UNLV. And then you had a very sharp, I think it was like 99% chance that Syracuse, that UNLV would win it, and then bang, 100% Syracuse. Just a bit all over the place, this whole game. Defenses were non-existent, shall we say.
And that happens in college football. You often get games where the offense is definitely going to be the stronger of the two teams, but to have literally hardly any defense from either side is pretty unusual.
Yeah. So just for a bit of context now, Syracuse went 2 touchdowns up in the first quarter. Then UNLV responded with 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. So at the half, Syracuse got a field goal, make it 21-17, and then from then on, it was a case of anything you can do, I can do better. It was back and forth and back and forth.
Yep.
Syracuse came out straight away, scored a touchdown, were just ahead. They did actually score another touchdown after that to take them 10 points ahead, and then, like I say, after that, it was UNLV, Syracuse, UNLV, Syracuse. Very back and forth. Just as a whole, a great game of football to watch.
It's why we watch football. It's why we watch college football games like this, where you end up with a team that you didn't think UNLV maybe were flattering to deceive. They had a decent run and whatever else, and they'd hit the headlines for a number of different reasons. So the eyes were on them. So from a college football TV network type of game, this couldn't have gone any better for them.
Absolutely. Just want to quickly go through, we'll get on to Alabama, and then we've got a couple more things before we finish that I want to go through. So Alabama Vanderbilt, number 1 ranked going into last week. Alabama knocked off their perch. We spoke about them already. We spoke about the goalposts. We spoke about the auctions. What a win for Vanderbilt. A win.
Alabama are frauds.
Frauds.
Never have had that number 1 spot.
Should never have taken number 1 away from Texas. But for Vanderbilt, for perennial underdogs, perennial whipping boys of the SEC, just what a story. What an absolute...
I love the fact that they were piping in Nick Saban's comments after the game.
Yeah.
It was on the big screen. Oh, it was beautiful, wasn't it?
That's cracking. I mean, that's next level shithousery.
That is proper trolling, isn't it? And for those of you who are not aware of what the Nick Saban comment was, it was very derogatory about Vanderbilt. I think his comment was along the lines of, "There's no easier place to play in the SEC than Vanderbilt."
No Alabama team should ever lose to Vanderbilt.
That's something
Didn't
like
you
that.
lose?
So for them to be playing it, I think Georgia lost to Vanderbilt, didn't they?
Yeah, well, it seems to be a thing, though. I was looking at the stat. There's quite a few of these top SEC coaches whose first season in charge, they lose to Vanderbilt. It's actually, I think it's a weirdly common thing to happen.
Is it? And it's probably something to do with, shall we say, complacency? Because
I wonder what the odds were.
Oh, would have been interesting to see the line on that, to see. Yeah.
Tell us about the game. I will look it up now.
I can't because I didn't see it. That's
just before you go into the game, as just a little stat, just to sort of, because we're obviously saying about what Nick Saban had said, the last 3 games that Alabama played against Vanderbilt, so that was 2011, 2017, and 2022. It finished 34-0, 59-0, 55-33. So, but then you look at the next score on the list, 40-35 loss. It's just mad.
Just where's that come from?
Even the dog can't believe it.
Yeah, see, I told you.
So Alabama, where if you are familiar with US betting formats, minus 2,000 on the money line.
Oh.
Ouch!
Oh, wow!
23.5 point favourites.
Wow!
Even with a quid, you could have made a killing.
No wonder the Vanderbilt fans were losing their absolute minds and taking everything they can. Because if, as you say, if they're throwing $1 on that or $5 or whatever, just because they love their team and they're always going to throw a couple of dollars at, wow, that's their college tuition paid for the year. Wow!
If you would have waged £200 on this game, you would have got a tenner back.
Not if you'd backed Vanderbilt, you would.
Not if you'd have backed
Vanderbilt. If you were to have bet Alabama and they won,
but then again,
£200
none of us would have backed Vandy,
tenner.
though, would we? None of us would have backed Vandy. That's
I would say, like, if you put £200 on Alabama to win and they won, you would have made a tenner back.
Wow.
A tenner.
Yeah.
But if you'd have backed Vanderbilt to win with the £200, you would have been absolutely rolling in it.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, again, the game, Vandy were just in front. They smacked them early. And I don't think, sometimes, I think we spoke about these before, and I feel like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, you brought these kind of games up. I'm pretty sure everyone else has it in some way or another. You get those games where you turn up just kind of expecting to win. And the team's just not there.
Punch in the nose, yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden,
Punched in the
Vandy come out
face early, and you suddenly are like, oh, we're actually in a game here, and you're
playing catch up. And the worst thing you want to be doing against a team like that is playing catch up. Because they, sometimes it's those games, they just know how to kind of grind that game out. Yes, Alabama started to come back towards, it was a close game in the end, but Vandy Vandy found the way to win. And that was punching them in the face early and just riding on the lead.
I think it just shows the importance of these conference games and what you have to do to make sure that you are still in games and make sure that you're actually turning up to these games. And I think, Nick, you mentioned it a few times, where if you don't turn up to these games, you will lose.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're playing, Vanderbilt, or you're playing Texas, or you're playing whoever.
Florida State.
These are still conference games. You've got to turn up for them.
Yeah.
Well, it's prime example. I mean, I know it's not Alabama Vanderbilt, but prime example. The other week when I came on here absolutely bemoaning Riley Leonard for being shite. Because Notre Dame had just lost to NIU. That should not have happened. But I said on this pod straight after, Notre Dame came in thinking, yeah, we got this, and then before they realised it, they're into the second quarter and they're like, oh shit, we're in a game here. Oh, bollocks.
Yeah.
And that's it. If you're Alabama and you're turning up at just any Tom, going to play any Tom, Dick and Harry, you think, oh, we've got this, third gear, don't need to work hard. And before you know it, you're knee deep in shit and going, oh crap. Because you just you can't switch that gear on and turn the gears and get going. You're just spinning wheels. And I think that's all Alabama can put it down to is they thought they could just waltz it. And they found out they can't.
They had the Nick Saban attitude going into that game and it shot them in the foot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we have to bring it back one more time to the scenes after the game. Students storm the field. The goalposts get ripped out of the ground and carried 3 miles from the stadium to the river in Tennessee and dumped in the river in an hour. In just over an hour.
And then they're cut up and sold.
Sold into individual pieces on eBay. It's just, I mean, it's brilliant story, right? And yeah, they'll get fined and all that sort of stuff. But everyone's there going, why wouldn't you, right? It's reminiscent to over here when Scotland beat England at Wembley and the Scots stormed the field and stole the goalposts and all that sort of stuff. It's that kind of these kind of wins don't happen for Vanderbilt. They don't beat the number one team too often, so I'm not surprised. But it's such a great story, especially as I say, it all came out on social media about the fact that the goalposts were stolen, the fact that within an hour they'd gone 3 miles down the road apart. Literally, I can just imagine it's almost like this heaving mass of humanity, and they're just carrying these goalposts in like some sort of crazy, crowd surfing. It's just.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we're just taking the goalpost for a walk.
Yeah, we're just going to and we're going to get them out of the stadium, and we're going to walk down the road with them, and we're going to throw them off a bridge. It's like,
at what point did they decide the river? Is it before? Yeah. Did they kind of congregate beforehand and say, if it goes in, it's going in the river? Or did it start to happen, and then as they're on the way out, they're all like, well, we're on the way to the river now. So, that's the way we're going. We're just going that way.
We're walking that way. We get to the river and go, can't be arsed anymore.
Was it more like they got to the river and went, oh, sod this is a pain in the
It's quite possible it's a traditional thing as well, because they have all these weird traditions in America where they do stuff where they go from the stadium to the river and stuff like that, don't they? So,
how many times as a student do you're walking home drunk at night and you think, where the fuck did that traffic cone come from?
Wake up next morning with that traffic. Imagine waking up with a game ball or the goalpost from the football stadium.
I woke up one morning in my halls of residence. I'd had a banging night out, absolutely top. Walked into the kitchen, right? I kid you not, there is a traffic cone sat on the hob of the cooker, and there is the plastic barriers that they put up on the plastic stalks. There was one of those balanced on top of the cone, and from what I can tell, people had been balling up slices of bread and standing at the other end of the kitchen and trying to hit the and I'm like, how drunk was I last night?
I mean, we've all done it, as you say, woken up and gone, I don't remember bringing home that McDonald's giant silver cup. It's been there, done that, but to do that.
If my dad's listening to this, your money for my education was not wasted.
Absolutely not. Because he's talking college football on a Wednesday night with us. Well done.
Well done,
I'll tell you what, though. That that game for Alabama at Vanderbilt, it really pricks my ears up a bit because we've got them week 9 after playing Oklahoma and Georgia back-to-back games. Then we've got to go to Vanderbilt in week 9. So I'm hoping that, Sark's going to have watched that game and thought, we need to make sure we don't allow that to happen to us.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Other coaches will now be like, look what happens. Complacency can sit in. Complacency can catch you out any week. Any given Saturday, whatever day we're on this week was football. But everyone's going to be live to that now.
Let's say that was Texas. The first thing that everyone would be coming out with is saying, "Well, see, Texas didn't know about the SEC and how difficult it is to play the SEC. They didn't respect the SEC and how tough even Vanderbilt can be." Just be
What's
Alabama.
Alabama's excuse?
What's their excuse?
Yeah.
They've not got an excuse now, though. I don't think in terms of Texas in going into that game with any sort of complacency, because they've seen what Alabama have done. They need to learn from that, especially as it was on their bye week. They were able to watch that perfectly well, and look at the issues that have been brought up. They can use the tape and everything. So they don't have an excuse now to go into that game and treat it like they're playing, teams like UTSA and that. Like, you can't go in treating it like that sort of game. So
last one, Fletch. Before we jump off, can we just take a moment? I know we're going to head into our predictions and stuff, and it's a nice segue in. Ashton Gianti, Boise State running back.
Yes.
What a season that kid is having. He's just, every time he touches the ball, he's running in for a touchdown. I think his first touch this game went for 65 yards and a TD. He's got to be Heisman Trophy. 13
carries, 187 yards for 3 touchdowns this week. The only reason I know that is because he was against me in the fantasy football. Luckily, I won that game, but he scored 36 points.
Wow. He's got to be number 1 in the Heisman Trophy ranking right now, surely.
And this is something I looked at last week. I think there was a couple. He was 4th in the running, and I think it's only increasing his stock. And something I said on Sunday morning, I went on Twitter and said it, I went on Instagram and said it, and I've gone on even Facebook now. I've got that back and said it.
Mm-hmm.
The message I want, anybody who listens to this, or even doesn't, like anyone who's into the NFL but not quite into college football, if I could tell you one name, just one name only from college football right now, it's Ashton Gianti. You need to remember this name, because on the 24th of April 2025, at some point, hopefully within
top 10.
No, by 9 p.m. Wisconsin time, his name will be read out in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I promise you that.
I don't think he is. I really not to. I don't mean to piss on your parade, Fletch, but I really.
So running back is not going top 10.
Yeah, he's not. He can look apart from Barkley, who I don't think the Giants should have taken as high as they did anyway. Right, I really don't see him going in the top 2/3 of round 1, just because he's a running back. It's so deep, that position this coming year. If he's even in the first round, I think that's a surprise. I'm not saying he's not worth it. I think
he's the first running back. He will be the first running back.
He will be the first running back off the board. I don't know whether he'll even be a first round.
Late one. It may be late one, early 2. But he is the best running back of this class at the moment, head and shoulders.
I just don't think he's going to go that high. Does he deserve it? Yeah.
Where is he in comparison to Bijan Robinson? Because obviously Bijan was the last running back to go high. So where is he in comparison to Bijan Robinson?
I would say in and around, probably around the same area.
So it wouldn't be a shock. I'm not saying it'll happen, but it wouldn't be a shock then if he's as good as what people. I do think Bijan's I still think he's an excellent talent. He's still going to be one of the best running backs in the league. But I do think everyone was surprised when Bijan went at that position anyway. So I think, people weren't expecting him to go that high. I wouldn't be shocked if he went lower end first round. That would be where I would have him. I think somewhere like, if it's somewhere, I'm trying to think of teams, maybe somewhere like a Baltimore or, somewhere who's probably going to be in the playoff picture.
Yeah.
It's going to go somewhere like that, or someone who trades at that position.
I just think the needs for the teams that are going to be high up don't fit the running back.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, it's like you said,
the running
Sam,
back tends
it's
to be
gonna
a luxury
those teams,
position, doesn't it?
Those teams that have been in the playoffs are probably the first teams that you're going to think you might see him. So like I said,
need to strengthen
maybe
up
the
one
last third of the first round is probably as early as you're going to see. And yeah, it is harsh on him because he probably deserves to be a top 10 pick. But unfortunately, these days, running back's not where you want to be playing.
The running back position has become so diluted in terms of
just sheer weight of numbers of bodies that can do it.
It's just like, I think that the role of the running back has changed so drastically, even in the last few years, where teams prefer to just have 2 or 3 and will rotate them and work on having 1 or 2 that will work as a handcuff. I think purely down to the fact that there's been a lot of significant running back injuries as well, that teams have had to adapt their way of playing. And also, the running back position itself, you come out of college at the age of say 21, 22. The way in which running backs are going, apart from some of the elite, you're looking at maybe 6 years, 6, 7 years max
at top level. Yeah.
So realistically, why not just have them for 4 years? Maybe if they're that good, tag on a 5th
get a second
year,
contract. Yeah.
and then just move on and just run on a 5-year rotation on running backs. Like,
I mean, I think also for the running back position, I think the success, should we say, of undrafted running backs in the NFL have made the position almost like you can't waste a draft pick. You can't waste the top half of the first round draft pick on a running back.
Yeah. I mean,
when you can pick up 7 of them at the end of the draft.
We got Kyron Williams in the 5th.
We got Jordan Mason
undrafted in the league at the moment.
Yeah, Jordan Mason is an undrafted free agent.
Mike Florio on PFT says it. He says how much tread is on those tires when a running back comes out of college. Chances are not a lot. But it's not just I know we're talking about Gentry and he's a running back, but you look at the wide receiver market. The pay on the wide receiver market is so high. Well, if you're a kid coming into high school football now, you even if you're looking at be in a corner, well, no, don't be a corner, be a wide receiver, because effectively you're just the other side of the ball doing the same job. Because while the wide receiver market's up here, I think the top corner's like half that, about 18 million. So even the cornerbacks aren't getting the value for protection against the wide receivers. So it's just the whole system's a bit skew-if at the top. That's the problem.
Fletch, just another bit of breaking news. This is college NFL related. Spencer Rattler is going to start for the Saints against the Bucs this week.
There you go. It is the week. It is the week of the backups. And did I hear that also Minshew's been dropped and benched?
Yeah. Aidan O'Connell is also
Aidan O'Connell's in for the rate.
But I just wanted to laugh because obviously we know that Fletcher's missus is a Saints fan, and that is the funniest thing I've seen.
She's asleep. So
when you get the chance to speak to her,
just when you go into it, just go in with a baby. Have you still got a baby rattle somewhere at home?
I'm never backing the Saints again.
Ever.
It's done.
So it's safe to say that Devontae Adams is not going to the Saints then.
What was he anyway?
He was favoured to, and he was making
Derek Carr
potholes, didn't he?
Yeah, potholes and all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah.
I think that's all smokescreen to try and get the
just
Jets
before we
to pay more.
getting back to college. Just before we move on to the next prediction, I just want to everyone to just have a quick look at the Tulane game where they won 71-20 against UAB.
What?
They had 317 yards of rushing and 6 touchdowns from 4 different guys. I just thought that was mad.
Wow. And that's what's happened sometimes. You get those games in college and the disparity is so bad. You're just like, oh. You almost think the mercy rule should have come in there and they should have only had 5 minutes for the 5-minute quarters.
Well, that is a great segue into it's midway through the season. I think we should take a look at our pre-season conference.
Oh, is that time? I've got to go, lads. Sorry.
Conference predictions. Barrett, no, you stay. There's a couple
I have at
of
least
these.
one bad one anyway. I know I've got at least
I think
one
we've all
bad
got
one.
at
Here.
least one bad one.
So let's talk about some of our conference winner predictions that we made earlier this off-season. Now we'll start
I knew
with
this
the
was
group
going
of
to come
6.
back and bite me.
We'll start with a group of 6, and it's a great
Okay.
segue because Egg, Fletch, Garrett, and Sam all chose Memphis Tigers as winners of the AAC, and Nick has just chose Tulane as leaders, as those to win the AAC. Now, going into week 7, after that game, can you tell me who's leading the AAC at the moment?
Army.
It's Army, followed by Navy.
who for the first time in however many years have got a joint 10-0 record. I think I saw something about that. The first time that Army and Navy have got to 10-0.
They stand there unbeaten, which means they are obviously also unbeaten in the AAC, and conference records will go above work out overall records. Tulane sit there in third with a 4-2 record, but are 2-0 in the AAC. Memphis are 4-1. However,
but with an 0-1, they've lost in. They lost
0-1 in the AAC, which means they're actually basically mid-table. So you think that there's like the Charlotte 49ers are 3-3 and above 4-1 Memphis. That you wanted to, something Nick particularly wanted to mention. How was that one for you in actual rankings? Not a decision made by some. That's actual rankings. 3-3 Charlotte 49ers are above the 4-1 Memphis Tigers. So that one's fun. That one's interesting. So no one currently is winning that one out of our group.
Our little group.
But then moving on to the best conference of the lot, Conference USA.
Cruiser.
Egg.
I chose Western Kentucky.
Gary, Western Kentucky, correct. I went with the Jacksonville State Gamecocks.
Just for the
and
name,
Nick
right?
and Sam went with Liberty. And again,
Liberty. You've got to say it. You can't just say it once.
Liberty are leading that one with a 5-0 record, 3-0 in the conference.
Yeah.
Sam Houston State a second,
5-1
record, 2-0 in the conference, and then we have Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State in behind there.
Jacksonville State are 4th, and they have a losing record.
2-3. Yeah. Crazy times.
However, only the top 3 have a winning record.
That is true.
So it's still crazy to think the 4th out of so many teams with a losing record, but only the top 3. So my mighty Kennesaw State Owls are 3rd from bottom with an 0-1 record in the conference and 0-5. They are one of 3 teams still yet to win a game in college football. All of which, those teams, are from Conference USA. That'd be...
They're all the same one, aren't they?
New Mexico State and the UTEP Miners. None of them have won a game yet.
New Mexico have won a game.
New Mexico have won a game. No, it's UTEP Miners, and it was Kent, somebody or other, not Kennesaw, but Kent. So
Kennesaw and UTEP are two of them, but yeah, NM State have won a game. They won their last game. They won their game against
Not
SEMA.
New Mexico State. Oh no,
Kent
yes,
State
they did.
Golden
Yes, they did.
Flashes.
Why are
Kent
they?
Yeah,
State
New
Golden Flashes.
New Mexico State beat.
Oh, sorry. Yes, they
SEMA.
are. No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. It's Kent State, the Kent State Golden Flashes. That's the one. You're absolutely right. I was absolutely wrong. They are 1-4, but 0-2 in the conference. Hence why they're below Kennesaw. So we're not out of it yet, lads. Kennesaw State still have a chance. Now on to the Big Mac Conference. Get a bit of action.
Get a bit of action. Get
Egg,
games on.
Garrett and Sam. Who did you guys go for?
Miami.
Say Miami? Did we say the Red
Miami,
Hawks?
Ohio.
Miami,
Wow.
Absolutely correct.
That's gone
Nick,
well.
Nick, who did we go for? You and I were the
Toledo, didn't
same.
I can't remember.
You
The
went
Rockets.
to Toledo, didn't you?
Toledo
Rockets.
Rockets. The mighty Toledo Rockets.
Oof.
Toledo and Eastern Michigan, essentially, are tied at the top. Both have a 4-1 record. Both have a 1-0 record in the conference. Miami,
Whereas
Ohio,
Miami
where
have
are they?
Like they are
Talk
the
to us.
diametric
Fourth bottom.
opposite. They are fourth rotten with a 1-4 record and an 0-1 conference record. I think they lost
They
to Toledo. I think
They did. So,
it's going well. It's going well. That one. It's going well.
it is. And one thing I want to say as well, I've noticed on a couple of occasions, if you ever want to watch some Mac football for free, if Toledo are at home, they tend to stream the first half on Twitter for free. Free Maction for you.
Free Maction. Mac free.
Moving
free Mac.
on to Ashton Jeanty with Boise State in the Mountain West. Egg, Gary, Nick, Sam, all of you went with
Boise State Broncos.
State.
Boise State. I decided to be clever and go with Fresno State
Because you just can't
How's
get
that
away
going
from your
for you?
Bulldogs.
because
It's
I
not
need
going
to
as
be
well.
different. I need to be different. Fresno State are 1-1 in the conference, 3-2 record overall, whereas Boise State 1-0 conference record, 4-1 overall.
And look at that conference record, though. One win, 62-30. Yeah. They've just been putting points on people all over the place, haven't they?
So what we're saying is, with the exception of the Army and the Navy, I'm pretty much smashing this.
So far.
That's what we're saying.
the
so
group
far.
of
Doing-
six.
You're
Doing
doing
okay.
well.
Apart
Wait,
from
hang
the
on, what
Army
about
and the
the Sun
Navy,
Belt?
I am smashing this in all four divisions.
Did we
so
even
far.
go
That's
anywhere
what
near
we're
the
saying.
Sun Belt? Did we say the Sun Belt? Did anyone? We did do the Sun Belt, didn't we? Can't even remember who I picked.
We're
for the
not
Sun-
at
you
Sun
picked
Belt
Old Dominion.
yet.
Oh no,
We're
sorry,
going
go
to talk.
on. I'm
Well, we
jumping
did do
ahead.
Sunbelt, but we are going to talk Sunbelt in a second. And no, not well. Yeah, you are pretty close in the AAC as well. Yeah, we are 2 games behind that, and then yeah, with Liberty you're fine. Toledo joint top. So yeah, you're pretty much smashing it so far. Finally, for the last two conferences in the group of 6, we did do Pac-12 as we did, so we may as well. Both teams are 4-1 with a 0-0 conference record.
So we're all winning. We're all smashing the Pac-12.
But Beavers are above because they haven't lost a game. They were 2-win streak, whereas Washington have a 1-loss streak.
Washington just lost.
Yeah.
So it will come down to whoever wins that conference matchup, basically, will win the conference. And that's something we didn't actually think of the other week, Gary, when we were talking about who would actually win the conference. Well, you can't have a tie in that game.
Yeah.
So even if both teams end with
you
the same
can't.
record, the in-conference tiebreaker will occur.
Will be the one that decides it.
So, but as Sam has just so eloquently mentioned, Oregon State have a 2-win streak at the moment, which means technically they're top, which means me and Sam, our Beavers are better than your Cougars. We are winning that one.
It's possibly
I
the,
don't know.
the line. It's
I'd rather
possibly
have
the line.
I'd rather have a cougar chase me than a beaver.
Wow. I'm going to just not comment at all on either
Sam.
side of that.
Gary's
Sunbelt.
gone.
Where did we get on Sunbelt?
Let's go. Sunbelt Conference.
Quickly, moving on from beavers and
so-
cougars.
Egg and I went with the mighty Appalachian State because, as Sam has mentioned so many times, just fun to say.
Slack
Fun to
2
say.
division team.
Flat 2 division team. Then Gary and Sam, you both went with where are they gone? Texas State. Nick,
The Bobcats.
do you remember where you went with this one?
I went Old Dominion, didn't
You
I?
did go Old
You
Dominion.
did. The reason
So,
he's
on that
saying
front-
that is you're beating the
So the-
Appalachian State.
The SBC is broken into a Western and East Conference. Appalachian State are bottom of the Eastern Conference with a 2-3 record, 0-2 in the conference. Old Dominion are one spot above with a 1-4 record, but only an 0-1 conference record. Texas State have a 3-2 record overall, 1-0 in the conference, and sit
Slap bang in the middle.
fourth
Fourth of
officially.
7. So
So
still time for Texas. Still time for the Bobcats to come through.
I should have backed my Raging Cajuns.
You
I
really
should
should
have
have.
backed them. They're doing
What's
very
happening
well.
with the camels? Hang on. Where are our camels, Sam? What's happening with our camels?
God
Do we
knows.
even
They're
remember?
a Division 2 team. No one cares about them, really.
the FCS.
Ah,
Yeah.
FCS.
come
I do
on,
like
Sam.
how technically we have all adopted a podcast team though of the Campbell Fighting Camels.
Yeah.
That's an adopted team for all of us, even if you don't even if you don't
Yep.
agree to that. Tough. I am very much appreciative though of our pocket rockets and our beavers being keeping me going. Very much
Just
appreciative.
for the record, Campbell Fighting Camels are second from bottom in their in their conference, 2-4 with a 0-2 conference. So yeah, they're in the
But we are beating the Aggies.
Colonial Athletic Association.
Colonial or coastal?
Colonial.
Colonial. So, moving on to the Power 4, because surely, we can't get any worse on this one. Oh no, let's go straight to the ACC, where no one could agree on a team. Egg went with
Which we
SMU.
thought was an indication of how strong this conference was, but actually,
Yes, we did. We did think that was the case.
What it's actually turned out to be is it's a shockingly bad conference.
So we've got Egg went with SMU. I went with Louisville. Gary went with FSU. Nick went with Clemson, and Sam
Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Sam was a believer from the start. Okay, so
I was a believer in Miami from the start, unfortunately, but I just couldn't ever say that they were going to win.
Yeah. Yeah. So shall we go? We'll work our way from the bottom up, starting with Gary, obviously.
Hey,
1-5 Florida State with a 1-4 ACC record. The team that we all went to go and see in August. Well, I say all. Sam obviously wasn't there, but the team that we went to go see in August.
When it all started to go horribly wrong, and we realised then how bad it was going to be.
You are, I believe, who was it who came out with the stat this week? Was it you, Sam, who said that a loss this weekend would eliminate?
I think it was Egg, wasn't it? I think it was Egg. And I think they can officially be disqualified or eliminated from the playoffs this weekend.
That's what sent us down the conversation of your chocolate bar.
Yeah, that's exactly my conversation, and my response was, I thought that happened in week 0.
As mentioned, I think, Gary said, it was put in the group chat, Gary had said, what was it? Oh, I thought we'd already been out, and I decided
ruled out
to respond
after week 1.
I think you were ruled out by the time you'd gone to check out.
Don't be mean like that. He's already upset. Yeah, he was upset he didn't get his Burger King. Chuck just chocolate on the floor.
Just
Just out of spite.
chocolate on the floor and discuss about it all. And it's only got better since then.
Next up,
What's a shockingly bad? I think it's an indication if anybody's out there watching and to understand what the problems are there. Don't rely on the transfer portal to refresh your team en masse. It doesn't work. Moving on. We don't need to talk about anything else.
moving on.
But,
Louisville.
Clemson look good up there, to be honest. Clemson do look good.
Yes, but Louisville are next, like mid-table. 3-2 record, 1-1 overall in the conference. Next up is SMU, 5-1 record, 2-0 in the conference. The top three include SMU at third. In second place is Miami,
With a better record than Clemson.
6-0 record, 2-0 in the conference. But because they are 3-0 in the conference, 4-1 Clemson are top of the conference right now. Look at him.
Right. Look at
See,
it. It's like
2 minutes
if
ago.
he could look any smugger, it would like break.
Oh no, because let's be fair. My pick'ems right now are going all over everywhere. I thought I had a really good week this week, and then I saw Sam had scored the same as me. I was like, oh, for Christ's sake. Oh.
But can I just say, 2 minutes ago, you were disgusted at the thought that a team with a worse record was actually above a team with a better record in the conference.
No,
You're claiming it as a
that
victory
is
now.
true. That is true, because I think the rankings in that sense are absolutely ridiculous. Because it's done on points, and obviously you get more points for beating somebody higher up than, but it's stupid. Simple as.
I agree. It's stupid, but right now you are winning the ACC.
Right now it's
because of
working in my favour, so we'll...
So it's not that stupid.
Next up...
No, it is stupid. I just don't disagree with it right now.
Next up...
When it favours you, you're happy
is
with it, yeah.
the Big Ten. 4 out of 5 went with the Ohio State University. Because it goes against my religion, kind of went with Oregon. Because I couldn't do that. 4 unbeaten teams remain in the Big Ten. But can you tell me who's top right now?
Indiana.
The
Hoosiers.
The first
Hoosiers.
official bowl-eligible team in the FBS. Indiana are top. They have a 6-0 record, 3-0 in the conference, followed by 5-0 Ohio State and 5-0 Oregon, both of which are 2-0 in the conference.
And Penn State.
And Penn State.
And they play each other this week, don't they?
Penn State are also there. But obviously for the two teams that we've decided that have been chosen for conference winners via this podcast, those are the two. They are in joint second with Penn State. And again, well, let's see how Indiana get on first before we think about maybe leapfrogging into that thing, because
I made that my game of the week this weekend. Ohio State and Oregon.
Ohio at Oregon, it has to be game of the week. It has to be on every major network.
To be honest, though, I'm quite interested in that Ole Miss LSU game, because that's got permutations throughout the rankings, because it affects not only LSU and Ole Miss, but that'll affect Notre Dame. It'll affect Clemson. It'll affect. Now I'm testing myself. It'll also affect Iowa State. Depending on Tennessee's result, probably them as well. So, that game, although it's probably not the best game, that Ole Miss LSU game has the potential to really swing everything.
Yeah. So,
we all know it's not the most important game this week.
No, the most important game's the Red River rivalry, right, Sam? You guys getting back on the horse.
Give us 2 seconds, because we'll get onto them top 25s and that game in a second. Let's just fly through these last two. The B1, we've gone from the B1G to the B12. Egg chose the Utah Utes. Gary and I both went with Kansas University. Nick went with Arizona. And Sam, you went with Kansas State. As it stands, Kansas, Gary, you and I, bottom of the league. 1-5 record, 0-3 in the conference. Next
Why
up
did we
in
choose
that
the
list
Jacob?
is
Why did
Utah.
you do that?
Utah with a 4-1 record, but 1-1 in the conference are lower mid-table.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Struggling without their
Arizona.
QB.
Yeah. Arizona and Kansas State right next to each other. Arizona 3-2, Kansas State 4-1, both with a 1-1 record in the conference. And yeah, that's it. That's it for the conference. So
Sitting pretty at the top of the Big 12 with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. How we
they
didn't
are.
choose them with a name like that. I mean, Raging Cajuns, you missed out on Sam. The Red Raiders, I mean, next time we know better, just pick crazy names, right?
That seems like a logical way to go about it next year. I think that's absolutely what we should do.
I think we should just pick the teams with the craziest names. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then that leaves us with the big one.
And finally, the big one. Yes, indeed. Egg, Fletch, Gary. We all said Georgia.
Yeah.
Nick said Alabama. And Sam went with Texas.
Sam played at home, obviously. I mean,
Alabama, a third out of these teams. Alabama are a third with a 4-1 record. That's 1-1 in the conference after losing embarrassingly to Vanderbilt at the weekend. Georgia, with a 4-1 record, have a 2-1 record in the conference, means they sit in a few spots above them. And finally, second in the table, but top of our three, is Texas with a 5-0 record, 1-0 record in the conference, only behind 5-1 Texas A&M, because they are 3-0 in the conference.
They've essentially, and this is where, I mean, and looking at it now, essentially, we have a better record than Texas A&M, but because we've played teams that are outside our division conference, we're below them.
Exactly.
Sorry,
So
what were Texas A&M? 5-1.
5-1.
Who's their one? Sorry, who's their one? Sorry.
No idea.
no idea. Some
Everybody
bizarre-
on that game day, or everybody on college game day. Oh, I'm going for the Aggies. Oh, I'm going for the Aggies. Yeah, go swivel on it, a lot of you.
So,
that
my
random
guess is it was
independent team that's.
My guess it was some group of 5 team. I didn't pay attention that week. Sam
Probably
Houston
a team
State.
that follows the rules.
Was it Sam Houston State?
Yeah, it was.
Knew it. I knew it. Come on, my football knowledge, ball knowledge. That.
Do you know what day and date it is today, or are you still confused?
I'm always confused on that one.
All right, okay. That had me laughing. I'm sorry. That had me laughing for at least 20 minutes. I found that hilarious. It's just Sam and Carl just sat either side of you going, no, we're not gonna help you out here. We're just gonna let you sing.
No, so all credit to Sam. Sam helped me out straight away on that one. He
waited a good few seconds, but he let you start to drown first.
What was
He
that?
waited a few seconds.
What did I do?
With the when we recorded on Thursday night and we're doing the
and he
quiz
couldn't
thing for
remember what
Sunday
the day
morning.
or the date was.
It is Sunday. Shit for it. But as I'd clearly given up on it, Sam immediately jumped in with it's a 6. But bear in mind we were recording very late on Thursday night. That got very late on Thursday night, that one. With that in mind, let's
very
just
entertaining.
wrap this up with a little bit of talk on the top 25. The AP have released their top 25, and a couple of just key things from my perspective is Missouri dropped dramatically 12 places to 21. Texas A&M jumped by 10 places.
Oof.
Texas A&M dropped by 10 places. Alabama dropped by 6, and we have returning.
Hang on, Michigan dropped by 14. Come on, let's
I was
not
going to say
skim
Michigan
over.
dropped the most, didn't they?
14 they dropped.
Sorry, I forgot to go down that far.
That far.
Michigan
Scroll
dropped down
down
by
to the
14.
second half.
It was a
Says the man whose team is like nowhere near this. But anyway.
One of them, you ever see them memes where it's like, oh, so when you have to stretch your screen just for a certain team to fit in the table. I don't have a screen that big to get Michigan on here now. But back at the top,
appreciate that, Fletch. Yeah.
Sam, listen. I've been scrolling all the way through here and I can't find Florida State
Still
anywhere.
Yeah,
so
still not on there. Yeah.
I just had to scroll a little bit more. I just had to scroll a little bit more for Michigan. You have to be scrolling back 6 weeks.
I'm surprised Missouri stayed in. To be honest, I would have thought Missouri dropped out. I thought that pasting, how bad it was, I would have expected them to have fallen out of the 25.
This is kind of the point I make, though. Look, Indiana are in 18th, having gone 6-0, with only 459 points. However, Miami are 6th, 6-0, and have 1,187 points. You know, again, Pittsburgh 22, 5-0, 196 points. Iowa State are in 11th, 5-0, 953 points. Penn State 5-0, 1,300. Oregon 5-0, 1,300. Everyone's 500. You know, it's like, make your mind up. Are you going with points or are you going with wins? Because right now it's not working for me.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, Texas A&M. I mean, I know they're 5-1, but they're sat in 15th. They're top of their conference.
They should be in the top 4 with the playoff picture in mind, because they are top of the conference and therefore guaranteed at this moment in time they would be the representatives of their conference. So why are they not ranked in the top 4? And that's kind of when, you know, it's mental. And I know you're getting there, Fletch, to the UK side of things, where we put together the UK top 25, which is slightly different and slightly, you know, more, I don't know, based around the actual games, I think. When I put the first season sort of rankings in, I did it like that, Sam. So I put the top 4 who I thought were going to win each of the divisions, and then in 5th I put who I thought was going to win the group of 5, which I thought would be the rankings at the end of the year, but obviously got completely wrong because they were doing it based on this stuff, and it's just like who random committee points and whatever else. It's just
I mean, but this is the thing where we get into it in college football with the whole. They're not trying to find the team with the best record. They're trying to find the best team, which sounds counterintuitive.
I was going to say the best team would have the best record.
Should have the best record.
I would say should, but then it goes into. So I'm trying to get into the thing where like, if you absolutely kick the living crap out of Kennesaw State, fair enough, that's 1-0. You go toe to toe with Texas. Which one?
And losing overtime or whatever.
At which point would you consider that a better team would likely go toe to toe with Texas, because Kennesaw State are terrible? And I think that's the thought process is trying to find teams the better team rather.
I think
than
Egg
because of the way
used the right terminology, didn't he? I think it was Egg. It was a good loss, or a good loss in college counts more than a walkover win that everybody expects you to put 90 on Kennesaw State, for example.
This is why I don't get how Texas A&M are so low, because not only have they gone 5-1, but they've got a 3-0 record in their conference, in arguably what is the hardest conference. Now, I can't speak for who they've played, because I could go back and look, but
it's still 3 SEC conference teams, right? So,
well, yeah, but is that
Vanderbilt?
And again, no disrespect, because we've seen Vanderbilt and we beating Alabama. But is it teams like your Vanderbilts, the ones at the bottom, which you always expect to get the spankings, or are we talking teams like your your Georgias, your Texases, and that. So
So
again, there's probably that level of. I just think it's bizarre that you would have a team that's gone 3-0 in their own conference and 5-1, only losing to another team that
they just beat
was
Missouri.
in the what is it, the 25.
You can only-
Yeah, they just
You
beat
can
the
only
top 10.
beat who's in front of you, though. You can
Yeah.
only beat, if you turn, regardless of whether you turn up and you play Alabama or whether you turn up and play,
Notre Dame.
Louisville or whoever, you can only turn up and beat the team that you're playing that week. And if you do your, like Belichick used to say, do your job. If you do your job and you beat the team in front of you, you deserve the honor of being up there.
but
That's just my opinion.
No.
It's an opinion I agree
I get
strongly with
that.
based on last year.
It's striking that balance, isn't it, between being a team that wins everything and being a team that wins
compete.
important matches against bigger teams, the big teams as well.
My point would then be, how do you become a better school? How do you become a better team? By recruiting players. But if you are going to lose your players to other schools because you can't get further up the ladder, because your wins don't count as much, because you're a bit lower down, it's a counterintuitive system, because then nobody can improve.
Because you're never going to recruit.
But at the same time, this is why I've not really, I've always had a bit of an issue, because, you look at someone like Liberty, they've gone 10-0 probably, the last 3 seasons? So surely they should be in these conversations. At no point are they in this top 25. Will they ever probably be in this top 25 because of the division?
Unless they go completely unbeaten, like they did a couple of years ago. It was TCU, wasn't it? Who went completely unbeaten, were ranked 3rd or something, went into the playoffs and got absolutely pasted. Going to your comment, Fletch, that's not what they want.
There is probably the possibility that a lot of these teams are picked upon the basis of who they are, and just generally what people's views of where they are expected to be as well. Like most people this season expect Texas to be in that Final 4, so they have spent all of their time, or majority of their time, in the top 4 AP top 25.
Mm-hmm.
And if they beat Oklahoma this week, and if they beat Georgia next week, then they'll solidify that number 1 spot.
Stamped. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there is a historical. There is a bit of we go.
So hang on, sorry. What I talk about this for a second is this scheduling. You are scheduled to play either 8 or 9. Every team is scheduled to play 12 games in a regular season. 8 or 9 of those will be in conference games. I'm not exactly how they determine which in conference games you'll play, but there are certain games as well that are every year automatically in that schedule. Michigan will play Ohio State every year, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rivalry games at the last game of the season, and a couple of those are guaranteed games every year. They will never be cut out unless one of the teams just disappears. So you realistically only have then 11 or maybe 10, depending on certain teams you'll play, because you might have, look at what North Carolina tried to do as a state earlier this year, and tried to put legislation for North Carolina teams to play each other no matter what at some point in the season. So you're going to realistically then have up to, we'll say 9 to 10 games every year that are open for you to schedule. Some of those have to be, X amount of those have to be conference games. So you then realistically have 3 games that you can schedule that are out of conference games. If you are a lower team, let's just go see, say Liberty, or any of these group of 5 teams. Now, if you want to do the whole, you have to only play what's in front of you is absolutely true, do your job, all that sort of stuff, great. But if you want to be recognised as going up against the best, to be recognised as one of the best, you've got to go up against the best and beat the best. Then it means you've got to go get one of those out of conference games against one of the best. You've got to go up and approach Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, any of the big teams, you have to go up to them and say, can we play you at one point in one of your out of conference games? And they've still got to agree to it. They've got to agree to play that game where actually they might turn around and say, actually, do you know what? We're going to play Jacksonville State instead because we know we can kick the living crap out of them and we want that to be our cupcake game against a group of 5. And then you say, right, okay, now we want like Michigan, Texas this year. Out of conference game, that's a game where you schedule that a few years in advance going, God, we're going to look so good when we beat Texas when they go into the SEC. Or we're going to look so good against Michigan when we beat the national champion. We'll beat Michigan, who are a top team, out of conference. That makes us look even better in the ranks. That kind of thing is always going to be, yes, you can only play what's in front of you, but you do get some sort of say in that those teams that are put in front of you. In the NFL, your schedule is made for you. You don't choose who you play. The schedule is made for you years in advance by the algorithms and the numbers and all that sort of stuff, and then the rotations. Whereas in college football, you've got to go. And like again, you look at NIU, the Northern Illinois Notre Dame game, and how you're paying. You got to approach that team and pay them money.
Old Miss Kentucky.
So again,
Old Miss Kentucky's a prime example, isn't it?
But when scheduling these games, you can schedule. You've got to try and schedule these games against the bigger opponents, and whether you agree that's right or wrong is another thing. But to be recognised against the big boys, you've got to go and play the big boys, and there is the option to do that. And again, I just the way the scheduling's done, and some of these games are prepared years in advance, where to the point where in 5 years you don't know whether a team's going to be good or not.
Yeah, totally guessing, hoping for the best, and then you got no chance of getting any change out of it. But as you say, there's also the flip side of that, where you get someone like Ole Miss, who go out to Kentucky and say, "Here, we'll give you $250,000. Come and play at our stadium because we know we'll beat you." And then Kentucky roll in and beat Ole Miss. So
one thing I'm going to add on here as well is we've spoke about this on numerous occasions. Who runs college football?
TV networks.
Bingo. TV networks run college football. What do TV networks want?
Bums on seats.
Big game.
They want big games. What do they not want? Cupcake games. They don't want. And we get annoyed by them and wonder why they're playing them. The TV networks do not want TCU against Georgia in the CFP National Championship again, where TCU, what was it, 65-7?
It was over in the first quarter or something, wasn't it? No.
Oh, I did have it up a second ago. 65-7. They lost. You can't, the TV networks can't have that in a national championship. So TCU got in on record. They did the right thing with that one. They said, right, look, you've got the record to match. Let's put you in. TCU got blown out. Okay, they beat Michigan that year in the semi-final. Good for them. But they got blown away by Georgia in the national championship. And the TV network can't have it.
Georgia blew away most people that year as well. That's
so
the problem,
when they're coming up with the polls at the end of the year, and as they're going through the year, what I genuinely think is in the back of certain people's minds is, again, when you're going off what's a better team rather than a better record, because losing close against a good team is better than beating a bad team. While it doesn't make sense, it's the whole point is these are voting with the idea of making big games at the end of the year that everybody wants to watch, but even down to the point where throughout the season, these are some of the games that the TV networks really want to see. They really ESPN Fox want Michigan and Michigan State. They want that one to happen every year. They want Michigan and Ohio State. They want Texas and Oklahoma. They want FSU and Florida,
Clemson,
and they want they want these games. And again, I'm so sorry I'm monologuing. I feel like I'm ranting at you.
I'm glad you don't. I'm glad you feel that way, because we're not feeling that at all on the other end of this.
No. And I know that you all just love hearing me talk, but I just want to
I
make
get
that
what
point.
you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's just, from my personal point of view, as I watch it, and I think, I just think if a team has put the effort in over the year to win their games, I just think they deserve it. I just think they deserve a shot.
I'm
and
with you
essentially
on that
that's
from
my
last
point.
year. But
If the network, if the TV networks run the sport, then, and you're not one of the TV network's favorite teams, what's the point in playing?
Also, but on the other flip side, if you're one of the network's favourites and you know you're going to get in, what's the point in playing?
it's the point to try and just turn up, because you're always going to get in anyway.
And
I'm in a great position because my team are going to be in that 4 because they love watching us play.
No, you're absolutely. It's an absolutely right, and it's a conversation that I think if you really wanted to go down that rabbit hole, which we can do.
I
thought we
reckon
just
after
did.
the season, it's worth going. Yeah,
And I'd love to see if we could get a guest in who maybe knows some more of the ins and outs as well on this conversation, because it's a great conversation. But we'll see. On that note, we're just going to go one last little bit. I promise you it's the last little bit. We'll talk about the UK and Ireland one. I promised that I would. So we are all a part of the UK and Ireland college football journalists, media people, which is still my biggest flex to date. And we are participating in voting for the UK and Irish top 5. The result,
we got Michigan even lower than the AP rankings
for this week. Do you know what? I believe that it's probably me who's dragging them down. I'm very pessimistic this week. It's very pessimistic. Among those, Texas Longhorns again have regained top spot. Mm-hmm. Ohio State Buckeyes,
rightfully so.
Right, no, absolutely rightly so. Ohio, Oregon, and Penn State are all climbing. But some of the biggest fallers have to be Michigan, who fell by 14, Missouri, who fell by 13, Alabama and Tennessee both fell by 6 and 5 respectively. And bigger climbers were Ole Miss, climbing by 7. And Boise State jumped by 5.
Aggies were a new entry and they were up at 13.
Yeah, big jump for the Aggies. Texas A&M jumped right in the middle.
UNLV and USC have dropped out. Texas A&M, Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Panthers, and SMU were all new.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri Tigers dropped 13
Rutgers,
on our rankings.
Yeah, Rutgers.
Rutgers also out. The math didn't make sense in my head then. I was like, there's 2 gone out, 3 gone in. Where's... I realised I missed out Rutgers. Sorry.
But it's interesting how that UK one aligns with the AP poll and the differences. Some of it's pretty similar. But
I might, if I can be bothered this week, which I've got a bit of extra free time at the moment, I might go back the last few weeks.
You're not watching football every night?
Oh yeah, and I'll be watching tonight. I will be watching tonight, and I'll be watching tomorrow. I will be watching every night. But while those games are on, because I think tonight is Jacksonville State versus... Who is it? I did put it up before.
New Mexico State.
New Mexico
Jacksonville State.
And Jacksonville State are 88.8% favourites, minus 23.5. Now, after Vanderbilt Alabama at the weekend, I'm not taking the game for granted, but I'm also thinking that at the end of the day, this is more likely to be an absolute demolition job by Jacksonville State. So I'll probably have a bit of spare time while keeping an eye on the game. I'll try and put them together and just map them out each
just to see how they've compared week to week.
Keep then I'll keep it going throughout the week. That's if I, again, that the serious note is what is number one, if I can be bothered.
Yeah.
So
But
I
yeah,
promise
it's also,
you,
as you say, it's nice to be part of that, and it's nice to have a say in
It
that
is.
sort of UK top 25 voters. But, yeah,
it is.
for that tiny little, newly spun up podcast that's, getting recognised and getting noticed. It's a nice feeling.
Absolutely. And obviously we'll be headlining the College Football Ireland game in August. Because we'll be so big by then that we'll have no choice. All our flights and hotels will be paid for and all that sort of stuff. So you better be out there for that one. Sam, you're going to have no choice
Nice.
this time round because everything will be
It's
paid
a
for.
big flex there. I hope College Football Ireland are listening.
If the ticket's all paid for, then I have to go. It's mandatory.
Mandatory.
Girl maths, it's free. The whole
Girl,
thing's
it's
free.
Yeah, it's free. It's free, so it's mandatory.
Absolutely.
No, forget the spending money while you're there. It's free.
And
So,
the flights and
It's
everything
free.
else. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Girl
Tickets are free. Girl maths.
it's fine. So with that, I'm very aware of the time. We do need to wrap this up. I am tired.
So
And
it's
I have
only been
football to
2.5
watch in a minute.
hours.
So,
It's amazing.
gentlemen, thank you.
Appreciate it, boys. It's good to catch up.
Have a good night.
No worries.
See you next week.
Till
Indeed.
next week.